Hi, everybody. My name is Alana Wilson, and I am the Vice President of Government Affairs and Public Relations at the New Center for the Study of Occupational Regulation at St. Francis University. And I'm really particularly excited for this interview because this is a state senator from my home state of Pennsylvania. We have State Senator DiSanto, who is from the 15th Senatorial District, covering all of Perry County, as well as part of Dauphin County. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course, of course. Thank you for championing this legislation that we'll dive right into. Senate Bill 637. It took almost a whole year to get it from beginning to end, I saw, when tracking the legislation. So kudos to your patience and your perseverance and really your drive in getting this bill to the finish line, right? Which we know isn't the easiest thing in any government. So we're there. Before going into the details of the bill, I would love to ask, what got you into, kind of cutting red tape, and specifically in cutting red tape when it pertains to occupational licensing for the constituents of the Commonwealth?
Well, thank you for having me, and welcome to whoever else is on the line here. I decided to run for the Senate in 2016 because I'm a lifelong private sector businessman working in real estate development, and my personal experience with government steady growth and size and scope increasingly diverted more of my company's time from building communities to completing paperwork, jumping through regulatory hoops. And the more restrictions that government places on businesses, the more time and resources are spent on compliance rather than investment and expansion opportunities. And that's what businesses are supposed to do. Since I've been elected, I've heard countless similar stories from other businesses, regular Pennsylvanians, nonprofits, all those type of things, how increasing government red tape has a direct and adverse impact on creating jobs, growing businesses, slowing their opportunity to help people in the sense of nonprofits and so on. So I think it's important for government to recognize it does not create jobs, but it certainly has the ability to impose undue burdens on our economy, and it needlessly holds back a lot of Pennsylvanians from enjoying the benefits of free enterprise and providing for themselves and their families. So I think that's pretty much a good reason why I got interested in government red tape. I just believe that, I didn't want to be 20 years older than I am now and saying I had an opportunity to do something, to interact and try to stop the growth of government. And so that's what I'm doing here. I'm trying to have a positive impact.
Yeah, I think that's a really inspiring story, especially me. I work at a university, so I think some of our students hearing this, whether it be now live or later on, viewing on our YouTube channel or on any of the other social media channels, I think it's really important that you really brought up that point of doing something now instead of looking back and trying to retroactively be on the defense. You were sort of on the offense. You saw that there was an issue and decided to react now instead of 10, 15 years later. So I think that's really important, especially to a college audience.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to know when we talk about reducing regulations, a lot of people interpret that as a negative that's potentially harmful to the environment when you think about clean air and clean water and things like that. And that's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about allowing people to operate businesses, all types of businesses, from a construction company to a bakery to whatever, to provide for their families and so on. And, we'll get to Senate Bill 637 soon, but also our regulations have just grown so onerous and large, it's preventing a lot of people that may have made a mistake early in life that, is preventing them from achieving the Pennsylvania and the American dream.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. My dad always had a saying when we were growing up, saying the only difference between us and people with a criminal conviction is that they got caught. So I mean, and that's
I
it.
wouldn't know about that, Alana.
I mean, it was really when we were learning to drive. So
I
it said
know.
to him, don't speed, stop for 4 seconds at stop signs, all those fun things. But it was just something that was being said, just really telling us, hey, we're not better than anybody else, and anybody can be in a certain position, regardless of however they're set up in their lives and their lives. But let's jump into Senate Bill 637. What got you involved in it? What really gave you the drive to be the prime sponsor on that?
Well, Senate Bill 637, first of all, now it's Act 53 of 2020, and it's about extending second chances for rehabilitated citizens seeking state-issued job licenses. You have to understand that because so many jobs require a state license now. And the new law forbids the state licensing boards from automatically disqualifying applicants for old or irrelevant criminal records. Every applicant must now be reviewed on his or her merits within the context of the profession and may only be denied a license for directly related to that job or if the applicant's conviction poses substantial risk to the public. So many times in the past, there were vague and opaque wordings that would prevent people from having their opportunity to get a license. So, this legislation requires the state licensing entities to be transparent and list the offenses that are directly related to the profession. And that's important because it provides the applicant the opportunity to request a preliminary decision, determine if their criminal record would make them ineligible for licensure before investing the time and money in expensive training or education. I always use an example. The prisons teach inmates how to be barbers or hairdressers, but if you have a felony conviction, you can't get that license. So they spend this time doing it, and it's just crazy. So, the law applies to all the Department of State's 29 different licensing boards and commissions. People don't realize that. The state has 29 different licensing boards and commissions that regulate 255 different types of licenses. And this is a wide range. It goes from barbers to cosmetologists, nurses, engineers, accountants, doctors, more, just about anything you can think of. And, government licensing now is, they're the gatekeepers on 1 in 5 jobs in our economy. So that's, 20 out of every 100 jobs, you need a license now. And you have to keep that in mind that there's 3 million Pennsylvanians with a criminal record. And this law knocks down the employment barriers and opens up opportunities for those state residents that may have made a mistake. And we are not talking about serial murderers here and rapists and all. We are not talking about any of that stuff. Law just provides transparency and accuracy and fairness, I would say, in licensing determinations. And, the other side of this, which a lot of people don't really think about, although we're trying to help people rehabilitate themselves, there's a huge need for a skilled workforce throughout Pennsylvania. And so I'm trying to help both sides of the aisle or the equation or the argument, however you want to do it, however you would like to pose it, I guess. I'd also say, I've been interested in this topic for a long time because when I was a business owner, my company gave opportunities to people on work release. And we would regularly get people out of our Dauphin County prison and have them on construction jobs or maintenance jobs or in our office staff. And, we weren't always successful in turning lives around, but there's a handful that we did. And that was enough for me. To try to get out there, help people, and you turn around one life, that's enough, I guess. So
Absolutely.
for me, anyway.
Yeah, and it's funny that you brought up the bipartisan or either side or whatever, because I was really going to dive into, I've been working with different legislators all over the country, really trying to pass common sense legislation like Senate Bill 637. And I know that a lot of questions they always ask me is, or I guess one of them, the main theme question they ask me is, how do you get that bipartisan support? So in this instance, and in this example, how did you get the bipartisan support for this bill? And how did you get, I mean, I went through the voting. I didn't see any objections either.
No, I think it's important to note that, citizen activism is important. You have to contact your legislatures, both in the House and the Senate, and you have to have a reasonable argument. And I think this argument is reasonable. It makes sense to everybody. But we also reached out to the Pennsylvania Chamber of Commerce, locally here, our Harrisburg NAACP, ACLU, Justice Action Network, and a lot of those groups have competing interests, but they also have interests like this that can align together. And I think that's just trying to get people to the table, sit down and discuss and say, how can we work together? Because, I'm sure you're aware, whoever else is on the Zoom call here, the state of today's communication and politics is pretty hostile, and everybody's in their own foxhole lobbying mortar shells to the other side. So, and that's why I got involved. You just have to pick a topic, something I knew about, something that I could see where we could win and get people together and just move it forward.
Yeah, I think that that's really great. And I think that's one of the main things that people miss all of the time is especially common sense legislation that affects business owners as well as the recently rehabilitated and, everyone in between. There is no party that supports that. There's just people, public servants who are elected who support that and push that like yourself. So I do appreciate that,
Right.
quite a bit.
Right.
I wanted to ask, so like most states, Pennsylvania has enacted some emergency legislation due to COVID-19 as it pertains to occupational licensing. Some states do things like waive fees. I know Pennsylvania did that with a nursing license, waiving fees, or maybe postponing testing or moving continuing education online. Do you foresee any of those becoming permanent rule here in the Commonwealth?
Well, that was a lot of question there. That's pretty wide ranging. So obviously, COVID-19 has created an all hands on deck situation in which the Department of State has taken steps to recruit people for testing and so on, and helping to care for the sick. There's been a lot of waiving of regulations, and it's important to note that not only in the medical aspect to try to get qualified people to come in, but we've waived a lot of regulations on CDL drivers and employment and stuff because they couldn't be done. And
Right.
To me, they couldn't be done because of the COVID and state employees aren't working. It's just amazing to me how many of these regulations all of a sudden aren't that important when you're talking about life and death matters. And it just reinforces my point that government, it needs to get back in its bag and do its job and not keep going and growing. So, so the department has authorized telemedicine services so patients can receive medical guidance from their homes and, save hospitals, emergency rooms, intensive care situation visits, that type of stuff. I've supported this legislation authorizing telemedicine services, and I believe that many of those temporary occupational waivers, such as allowing practitioners in other states to practice in Pennsylvania and so on. And I think it's important because, and here again, with my personal experience, everybody may not be familiar with my district, but I represent Dauphin and Perry counties. Dauphin County is the city of Harrisburg, surrounding suburbs, but Perry County is a very rural county, and the access to nurse practitioners and medical health is much harder for those people to get, and telemedicine can help them quite a bit, and we're not talking about having a nurse practitioner fix a broken bone or do heart surgery over the phone. It's for the things that you can handle. You'd still go where you need to for the more serious things. So, yes, I'm hopeful the General Assembly will recognize how reducing the government red tape, will help us in our everyday lives and not just in an emergency. And I hope we just keep moving forward with it.
Absolutely. So on that topic, the state of Missouri, or I guess states like Missouri, but this is the one that's most prominent on my mind, as I did go down there to help testify for this bill. They recently passed a universal recognition bill, um, recognizing credentials coming into the state. Do you foresee Pennsylvania doing anything like that anytime soon?
Well, I think we're generally working towards that. In July of last year, our General Assembly unanimously approved House Bill, I think it was 1172,
Hmm.
Act 41,
Hmm.
2019, and that provides for job licensure by endorsement from Pennsylvania state boards and commission. And that means the recent law permits these state licensing entities to grant on an individual basis a Pennsylvania job license if the applicant holds an occupational license in another state or country with substantially similar requirements. And that law gives the boards the authority to issue a provisional endorsement while the license applicants complete Pennsylvania specific requirements, such as child abuse training, something like that. And I honestly did not realize how much of an issue this is until I became a senator, and our office is routinely, requested to help people have their out-of-state licenses, be certified in Pennsylvania. And it's a real problem, especially for spouses and so on that may not, I guess they move willingly, but the other person had a job that didn't require a license, and the spouse comes along and all of a sudden their employment is limited. And that, that brings me to another point that's really important within Act 41 is it provides military spouses and other out-of-state professionals to streamline that opportunity. And specifically with the military, I mean, it's just unbelievable that, a guy goes in the military and I thought I lost you there. You disappeared all.
No, I'm
I don't
here.
know if I was disconnected. I'm sorry.
No, I'm by a window, so if I go a little dark.
Okay. All right. There's military trained EMTs and they've served overseas. They've been in combat situations. They probably have more experience with trauma and all that kind of stuff. And if you move from out of state and you're a military EMT, you still have to go to Pennsylvania's training after all that. And there's somebody that's willing to help and so on. So we're really working towards recognizing military experience for Pennsylvania licensure. And the other one that gets me is if you have a military CDL driving those big trucks around and transporting vehicles and everything, you still have to get a CDL in Pennsylvania. And it's just,
Wow.
It's frustrating to me. I can imagine how frustrating it is to the person trying to get the CDL.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that brings me to my last question for you, really. What's next for you when it comes to occupational licensing legislation for the Commonwealth? What do you think you want to focus on next?
Well, I think there's a lot of opportunities out there that we need to make sure that, we work within the parole system. There's areas there that I think can use some improvement. We're working there. I think we need to make sure that we have the continued endorsement of all these groups and the community, because there's always that constant fear that we're going to go too far and there's going to be unintended consequences of this stuff. And so I'm very attuned to that. I want to provide an opportunity for the people that made a mistake, a one-time mistake, and are willing to re-engage and become a productive part of society, because and that's why I'm so interested in education as well. It's not really part of this discussion, but I sit on the education committee, and I firmly believe if we catch people when they're young and get them on the right track early and stop them from going off the track, it's a lot easier than trying to help straighten somebody out that's 30, 40, 50, whatever. I know some people that are 60 that still need straightened out. But,
Oh, yeah.
so.
No, I think that's really important. I mean, again, we're at a university. My mom was a preschool teacher. I am all about education. So I'm glad that you threw that in there as well, because I do think it's important, because I think what it shows, or the people who are going to be watching this and beyond, is that occupational licensing doesn't just start at the level of when you decide to become a barber, cosmetologist, lawyer, chiropractor, whatever you might be. It's leading up to that point. And like you said, further educating people earlier on about what does protection look like? What does government oversight look like?
Right.
All those different things. I completely agree with you there. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Do you have any questions, or do you want to leave our viewers with anything from you?
No, I would just say make sure you're involved in the process. Sitting on the sidelines complaining never gets anything done. You have to get involved. You have to know the issues, get to know your legislators. And I always try to tell everybody, we are happy to hear from our constituents, but when you contact us, be prepared, be professional, and be short with time, because as I've come to understand, being a legislator, you really realize how big government is and how much it affects everybody in the Commonwealth. And I personally react much better to a well thought out argument that's presented very quickly and with an agenda, obviously, but without a lot of hyperbole. We're just looking for good information, because that's how we make our decisions. We react to constituent calls, we react to lobbyists, business groups, nonprofit groups are all in here, and I listen to everybody.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you giving us the time, just for these couple of minutes to really dive into this bill. I think it's a really, really big deal. We have been working with the Pennsylvania Department of State, BPOA, in the past, just helping with the occupational licensing reviews and things we did that you guys started earlier on. So then to see this happen, it's just particularly exciting for us and gives us a little bit, more energy and oomph in a time that has kind of, been a bit down lately in the last 6+ months.
Right.
I think this is something that people really need to learn about and learn more about, and realize the legislators are very much doing their jobs and protecting the constituents of their states and commonwealths, as well as bringing economic opportunity to the plate. So I really appreciate that overall. And I thank you.
I do have a question for you, Lana. Do you subscribe to my Senate email updates?
I do not, and I'm going to now. How do you subscribe to those?
Well, if you just go to senatorddisanto.com, you can sign up. We have newsletters and weekly updates, and I would encourage everybody to sign up to their own senators. That's how you find out about it. And also, your House member has the same type of thing, and it will keep you abreast of what's happening in state government. And maybe a lot of the issues aren't important to you, but it's a good place to find out what's going on, what I'm working on, or whomever your senator or rep is, and you can stay engaged. So, all right.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So is that the best way to, I guess, get information? Do you have social media pages you want to share with everybody?
Yeah. Well, I don't do Facebook, although we're on Facebook Live, but my Senate office does. We have Twitter at Senator DiSanto, so you can check that. I do a lot of my own tweeting. That's why I don't do the Facebook stuff. And I find that's more manageable at my age challenge state that I'm in right now. So.
No, we're actually live on Twitter too, so it's good to go. We have those, and we'll link your website to sign up so that people can sign up for your newsletter. I do think even if Senator DiSanto isn't your state senator, I would still encourage, because he does have portions of Dauphin County, which is where Harrisburg is, to see what's going on in the state's capital. I think is important too. So I would encourage everybody to subscribe to yours as well as their own.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. I appreciate your time, and hopefully we get to meet each other in person soon. when
Yeah.
you guys go back into session.
Yeah, I'm around. I'm the only senator that's in the Capitol every day, just about. So, because it's my
Well,
district. So, I look forward to meeting you, and thank you to everybody for attending the Facebook. And we'll see you later. Okay.
thank you all so much.
All right. Take care.
Bye.